big picture lets you be mature and complete, shaped in the image of Jesus, lacking nothing. And that's a joy. Well, now in verse 5, we continue the thought. If any lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generally to all with finding fault, and it will be given to you. But when you ask, you must believe and not doubt. The one who doubts is like a wave of sea blown, tossed by the wind. That person should not expect to receive anything from the Lord. Such a person, double-minded, unstable, all they do. The double-minded man. This minded figure come again in chapter 4. We'll get that text in a minute. If you will, let me walk through quickly through the text we just read. Three simple observations that I think everybody can agree with me on from that one text. Number one, in a trial, you need wisdom. If you think about it, when you're between a rock and a hard place, you're not sure how to be faithful to Jesus and survive this thing. Maybe the greatest gift God could give you would be some divine wisdom, the mind of Christ, the mind of the Son of the Spirit, that God would bless you. I think about Daniel. You know, Daniel in the lion's den, Daniel. I think about Daniel serving King Nebuchadnezzar in a strange pagan world, trying to represent Jesus, trying to represent God, be faithful to his beliefs, and literally work for Babylon. That brother needed wisdom, and he was known as a wise prophet. When you are in a trial, you need wisdom. You need many things, frankly. Perseverance, endurance, good countenance. In James chapter 5, it says, if you need wisdom, ask God. And then there's something that I need you to believe. He said, ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. Verse 5, ask God for wisdom. You know, God who gives generously without finding fault, and it will be given to you. The second thing I need you to see in this text is that God is more generous than believe. In the book of James presents God as a very generous God. Here, he gives to all without finding fault. In a few verses later, James tells you that all good gifts come down from above, from God, who doesn't change mind and shift like those. So whatever gifts you enjoy, from sunrise to a best friend, to sobriety, to love, to music, to art, those were gifts that came down from God. Be thankful for them. Rejoice. given to you, verse 6. But when you ask, you must believe and not doubt, because the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea, blown and tossed by the wind. That person should not expect to receive anything from the Lord. Such a person is double-minded and unstable in all that it is. Today we're talking about the double-minded, the man that God won't bless. And my question is, why won't God bless this person? Why won't God answer this person's prayer? Why won't God give this person wisdom? The reason that we want to read this carefully together is because I don't want any of our church family to be a person. I want you to know a God who wants to give without fault. So let's dive into the double-minded man. What can we know from this text? If we study James, what can we learn about the double-minded man that has sabotaged his walk with God? So this person can't access to the spiritual wealth of God, to his inheritance from his father. What is it that's just choking out the line that this guy has to the Lord? Let's just move to the text. We don't want to make stuff up. What does the scripture say? The first thing that we learn from the text about this guy is that he doubts. Look at verse 6. When you ask, you believe and not doubt. The word believe in your English translations is faith in Greek. So a person who's asking God for wisdom needs to have faith and not doubt God's ability to give. Okay, so that's the first thing. Now, when I was a kid, I would read texts. He didn't believe hard enough, right? He didn't exercise a strong enough belief. It's almost as if it was all in his mind, and if he would, in faith, only how hard do you believe that God will do this? And so if this could just sit there and be absolutely convinced that God would, then bless him. Well, I'll change my mind on that. The book of James. And I'll show you why. In James, God makes it very clear to us that faith, it's not just believing a thing. It's not just believing that God can do something or will do something. How do I know that? Well, because in James chapter 2, which these are sermons for a couple of weeks now, so keep coming back. In James chapter 2, James says that the demons believe that God won, and they shudder. In other words, they know everything there is to know. They know how big God is, how real God is. They know what God is doing. They know these things, and it doesn't save them. It makes them sure. Faith, not knowledge. It's not hard. You think it's true. In James chapter 2, James, faith without works is dead. In other words, for James, faith is that I believe God and obey him. That I believe him enough to trust him. That I believe enough to cast my cares and frankly, my security and my future in his hands. Faith is not just up here for James. It's here, it's here. In the book of James, faith is how strongly you believe it. Now, hold on, because I'll come back to this. So the double-minded man doubts God. He hold on to his faith when he asks God for wisdom. Now, if James' faith is not just if it's also requires obedience, I come back to in a minute to what that means. First, let's paint a picture. The second in the text is unstable. This guy's unstable. It doesn't mean he lose temper all the time, although he might. It means that his life, the pattern of his life, the direction of this guy's life is like a wave. It moves in on the shore and then moves back out to sea. It can't make up its mind. It's easily blown around by wind. It's not firm or solid. It doesn't have like a linear direction. It's just not, of course. In fact, it just vacillates. This way a little, this way. I mean, it's ultimate flip-flop. This guy's life. Third, this brother is worldly. Now, sometimes when we say worldly, we mean this person is by sin and greed, the flesh pleasures. That's exactly what we mean in this by worldly. Let me show you. Flip with me in 4. In James chapter 4, Verse 8, James returns to the world, to the double-minded man. Look at verse 8 with come near to God, and he will come near to you. Wash your hands, you sinners. Purify your hearts, you double-minded. So in James 4, I've got a second context to understand this guy in the Bible. Well, if you will, buckle your seatbelt, moving quickly, but read verse 3 through 10, and I'll show you James 4 tells you about this man's commitment to worldliness. Like he wants to think and prosper as the world around him thinks and lives and prospers, regardless of God's plan for his life. I'll show you. Look at verse 3, chapter 4, verse 3. When you ask, not receive, because you ask with wrong motives, so that you may spend what you get pleasures. Time out. Way back in James chapter 1, we were asking for wisdom, and the double-minded man wouldn't get it. Well, here in chapter 4, you get a little more color commentary. God says, you don't get things because you're not even asking me. And then he talks to the double-minded man and says, and you're asking me for it, but I'm not giving it to you. Because if I answered prayer, you're going to spend it on yourself. You're so centered that you want to just take my inheritance, my gift, and you on your glory. And that's not what I'm doing. Look at verse 4. You adulterous people. The implication is that they love God and the world. You adulterous people. Don't you know that friendship with the world in God's plan and one foot in the world's solutions. And frankly, he is ready to walk either path that opens a door, which makes me nervous when believers say, well, a door opens, and so I took it. Not all doors come from the Lord, my friends. guy's got 1 foot in God's kingdom and 1 foot in the world. This guy's 1 foot on the straight and narrow, 1 foot in the wide and winding. He's going to walk whatever path seems to work easiest for him. So he's like a wave. In this way and in that. This way, and he will not persevere because his trusting in God requires him to step out in obedience, follow Christ when it doesn't make sense. But as soon as it's difficult, this man drifts back and says, well, this isn't working. Try the other path. Now this is working. I'll go back. God help me. And this man can't walk the path God gives him long enough to endure the suffering necessary for God to see him through it. Find a biblical character that was called to suffer. And imagine what would have happened if they'd quit halfway through. That's this brother. He will not obey God and